Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, broadcasting from the sunny shores of Jamaica and the West Indies. I'm thrilled to be here with you today, sharing this beautiful moment as we embark on a journey to help you live your best audacious life ever. I sincerely appreciate you for taking time out of your day to join us on this enriching experience. Now, in today's episode, we're diving deep into the inspiring story of overcoming physical limitations and challenging societal perceptions of disability. We'll explore the pivotal role that support from the family plays, as well as what friends can offer in achieving success. I'm honored to welcome our guest, Ken Kunken. Ken is a remarkable individual who has not only faced significant physical challenges as a quadriplegic, but also he's also achieved incredible academic and professional milestones. He is the first quadriplegic to graduate from Cornell University and has enjoyed a distinguished career as a vocational rehabilitation counselor and assistant district attorney in Nassau County in New York. Ken's journey is a testament to resilience, and he has dedicated his life to advocating for individuals with disabilities. It truly is an inspiring conversation, and when you hear the remarkable things that Ken has done with his life, you truly will walk away feeling touched, as I was. And so, without any further ado, let's roll to our conversation with Ken. Enjoy. Hey, Ken, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate the time to do this.
Great. Well, thank you for having me as a guest.
The opportunity to engage in dialogue and really a chance to help inspire other people is sort of what I love doing on this podcast and why I continue to do it. And you know, inspiration can come in all sorts of forms throughout our lives, and certainly, you know, you've certainly let an inspirational one. You know, you're quadriplegic, but you haven't let that hold you back in your life, and so. Maybe as a starting point, if you could sort of share your story, Ken, and the journey that's got you to the point that you're at now.
Sure. Well, in 1970, while I was 20 years old and a junior at Cornell University, I broke my neck and damaged my spinal cord playing football on the lightweight football team at Cornell. And as a result, I'm almost totally paralyzed. I have just a little bit of movement in my left arm, but nothing in my fingers or wrist. And my right side of my body, I could just shrug my shoulder a bit. So I'm considered a quadriplegic, and I've been so for more than 50 years now. And so to think of your life and all that you've accomplished, because that didn't stop you. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, what happened was tragic. It happened at a young age, and it's not like something you were born into. You had to relearn this new life again. Can you sort of talk about kind of what that process was, getting you to that point where you could decide to move ahead and not let this hold you back? Sure. Well, I spent 9 months and 20 days in various hospitals and rehabilitation centers. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, I knew that in order for me to have any chance of being successful in life, I had to make the most of my mental abilities since I was so physically limited. Mm-hmm. So 11 days after I was finally discharged from the hospital, I traveled 250 miles away from my home and family. And with the aid of a personal care attendant that I had met just once before, I returned to Cornell University in upstate New York, and I resumed my studies there in industrial engineering.
Wow, that focus to do that is incredible.
Thank you. And I had the added misfortune of being injured 20 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act took effect. So when I went back to Cornell, there was not one ramp or curb cut on the entire campus.
Wow.
So I could not use my electric wheelchair, which helps me get around. I needed people to help pull me up and bounce me down steps in order to go virtually every place that I went to up at Cornell. Yeah, you're describing a time that thankfully many can't envision or imagine. A time where there wasn't space made for people's that require the additional support, people with disabilities, and so I'm at least I'm thankful that many people listen. Go, well, they can't imagine what that was like, but it was very real for you.
Oh, very real. My first day back at school, I had to be either pulled up or bounced down close to 100 steps just to attend my first day of classes.
Wow. Wow. You say balance and it kind of brings a smile, like what that image is like, but my goodness, it's I mean, shout out to an incredible support system. I would imagine that was a big part of your success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What if you start talking about the importance of having support around you?
Well, I couldn't have done anything in my life without a lot of help from family and friends. And I was fortunate that my family always encouraged me to make the most of the mental abilities that I did have and to strive to be the best that I could be. And through their help, encouragement, and support, and through helping friends and all, I was able to return to Cornell and complete my junior and senior year during those next 2 years. And in 1973, I became the first quadriplegic to ever graduate from Cornell University.
Wow. Well, congratulations first and foremost on a remarkable achievement, defying the odds. Maybe you probably turned a lot of heads, Kevin. You probably can't turn a lot of heads. I mean, but wow, like that he did it, right? You must be really proud.
Very proud, and it did attract a lot of attention. There was a lot of attention paid to me because you just didn't see somebody in my condition back at Cornell University back then, because it was such an inaccessible campus. Mm-hmm. But I was fortunate that I received a lot of help and encouragement. And after I graduated, I decided that there was still more I wanted to do and accomplish, but I felt engineering really wasn't a very viable field for me. Mm-hmm. So I changed my career goal. I stayed at Cornell, and I decided to pursue a career in counseling. And while I was at Cornell, I earned my Master of Arts degree there in counseling and student personnel administration. And I became the first quadriplegic to earn a graduate degree from Cornell University as well.
You just keep knocking off those milestones and accomplishments. I love it.
Right. Thank you. And then to increase my counseling credentials, I then went to Columbia University, where I obtained a Master of Education degree, where I majored in psychological counseling and rehabilitation. And I decided to look for a job in the rehabilitation counseling field. Mm-hmm. And I guess I was fairly confident that now that I had 2 degrees from Cornell and 1 from Columbia, I mean, 3 Ivy League degrees, 2 master's degrees, that I shouldn't have too much difficulty securing employment. Well, to my dismay, no one would hire me. I sent out more than 200 resumes. Wow. And I looked for a job for a year. And back then, it seemed everyone felt I was just too disabled to work. In fact, I was even turned down off to volunteer my services.
Because it was just so you were seen as, I don't know, a burden. I don't know. What were you hearing? Did any?
I was basically just seen for my disability and not seen for my ability. And I was very fortunate that I found one organization on Long Island willing to give me the chance to show what I could do. And that organization, appropriately enough, was went by the name Abilities Incorporated, which was part of what was then called the Human Resources Center and is now called the Viscardi Center, after its founder, Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr. And they hired me to work as a vocational rehabilitation counselor for other individuals who had severe disabilities.
Right. Ken, I love as you tell your story, and I guess because you had an opportunity to tell it many times, and so it's you've owned your story, but it sounds like this is just what I did, and this is just, and I'm sure there are lots of challenges, lots of pitfalls, and lots of things. Maybe there are times where you wanted to quit, but I do love the fact that you embraced it, and through that process of embracing, it just sounds very easy. I got to tell you,
I was so fortunate, you know. One of the differences between what I was able to do and what others been able to do was the help, support, and encouragement that I received from my family and friends. I mean, they basically assured me that they would act as my arms and legs to make sure I could still do everything I wanted to do in life. And through
Hmm.
that help, I was able to go back to school, earn the degrees I mentioned, and then work as a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And I was fortunate that the Viscardi Center was
Hmm.
attuned to helping people with severe disabilities. They
Yes, yes.
encourage people to hire people with disabilities. And I learned an awful lot working for them and with them and encouraging other individuals
I love
to
it.
do as much with their life as they can.
I love it. I so love that. You know, there's much to be said by taking, my experience or our experiences, our challenges, our obstacles, all the difficult things, and get through that on the other side, and then be able to turn back and, okay, here's how I can show others, and here's the encouragement I can give you, or here's what I can show you what's possible. Because for you, in a lot of instances, it sounds like you were the one breaking ground for the first time. You didn't have that blueprint in front of you, and so to be able to offer that for others, I think it's just a wonderful thing.
Thank you. And in fact, when I was injured, I didn't know of any other role models that I could turn to and look to for inspiration, motivation, and support. I mean, this was well before
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve was injured.
Hmm.
Christopher Reeve was an incredible role model for so many people,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
didn't know of anybody else at that time that I could turn to for help and support and encouragement. And there may have been people out there,
Sure,
I just hadn't heard about them.
sure.
But,
Yeah,
one of the things that pushed me was with so much help from my family, I
yeah,
didn't want to disappoint them with all they
yeah,
were doing to help me.
yeah.
And I must say that having the opportunity to work
Mhm.
increased my feelings of self-esteem,
Sure.
feelings of self-worth, and my self-confidence. And as a result of that, I felt there was still more I could do.
Ah,
So I
man.
actually left my job at the center and
Mhm.
went to Hofstra University Law School.
Wow. So you didn't stop the education.
Right.
I
Mm.
love it. I love it. I want to just go back because you sure talk not letting, you didn't want to let the people down. Um, and that really speaks to the power of belief, right? When people believe in you, and oftentimes what happens is, individuals can see our greatness before we see it ourselves, and they're going, yeah, Ken, I know you can do this because I can see it, and we just have to believe it ourselves. But when you have that belief, that serves as a motivation, and that kind of gets your engine going, and you like make you feel that it is possible. Because in your case, the only person that you had to look to was a person in your mirror, right? That's all you had, right?
Absolutely. And one of my firm beliefs is that just because something has not been done before doesn't mean that you cannot do it now.
That's right. That's
You really
right.
have to challenge yourself
Yeah.
and work as hard as you can to exceed everybody's expectations
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what you can do.
Yeah, that's such a powerful point, and really even in line with the podcast, because boldness is something that we encourage, right? That's part of being this audacious life. And in fact, we've got there's a framework that I use, BOLD, bold. The B is for better than yesterday, and so I had this accomplishment yesterday. I did this thing. What can I do better to over do better than that? The O is for outlast adversity. You would know all about adversity because it's your whole life has been full of adverse situations, but you've got to outlast that, because on the other side is where the greatness lies. The L in that framework is live your truth. It really speaks to authenticity and being who you are supposed to be. And then that D is disrupt the norm, meaning to the point that you just made, that beaten path has been written and other people have done it. That doesn't mean you can't go off and go somewhere else and try something. That means you can't be the first. And you're shining. Your life is a shining example of a whole bunch of firsts. And so I think of that bold framework as you tell your story and as you explain the things that you had to go through.
Thank you. And I like the way you explained it. I like that symbol bold. It
Yeah,
means a lot. I think that's great.
yeah, and I think, and what's really what's key with that is that we can start at any point. Like we can, we don't have to start at the B, we don't have to start at the L, we don't have to start at the D. We can start wherever we're at, and because it's really what life throws our way. And again, everything that you said to me speaks, my goodness, that is a bold life. That's living an audacious life. That's not caring about what people think, feel, or believe. I'm going to do it anyways. And sure, the supports, and you talked about the importance of the supports, and I agree with you that it's nice to have that there because the belief in others fuels you, right? And when you can take that, you can do all sorts of magnificent things. That's so beautiful to hear, Ken.
Thank you.
Man, what are you most proud of? With all you look at, when you look at, not that your life is over and you're done, there's still lots to do. I'm certain when you look back and your accomplishments to date, what really stands out for you?
Well, while I'm certainly proud of what I accomplished, both through my education and through my work life, what I'm most proud of is my personal life. So if I could just tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah.
When I was 50, I met and married the woman of my dreams, my incredible wife, Anna. We got married in 2003. I was actually 52 at the time. It was shortly before I turned 53. And to make life even better than that, of being just married to my wife said that she'd like to have my baby. So that really seemed impossible at the time. I had been paralyzed for more than 30 years, and I was already in my 50s. But we researched various options, including in vitro fertilization, and we're very excited to learn it still may be possible for someone in my condition, paralyzed for more than 30 years, to father a child. So we pursued it, and I have to tell you, through the miracle of science, Anna became pregnant.
Oh, beautiful.
And what made it even more special, if it's possible to make that more special, is I was present in the delivery room on January 24th, 2005. I was present in the delivery room when my wife, Anna, gave birth to triplets.
Oh, wow.
We have 3 beautiful, healthy, incredible boys, Joey, Jimmy, and Timmy. They're now 19 years old and sophomores at 3 separate colleges in upstate New York.
Such a beautiful story. Thank you, Ken, for sharing that. It really just speaks to the power of possibilities, and, dreams absolutely can come true. And it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter how much you don't have or what you're lacking or what people say you can't do. It's what you believe you can do and what's feasible, what's possible. And so thank you for sharing that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because now what you're now talking about is your legacy. Your boys are your legacy, and
they are, and I am the most proud of them.
Oh, absolutely. And to be able to know that they have a shining, vivid example of what perseverance looks like, of overcoming obstacles and challenges and continuing to not quit and push ahead. They've lived it. They've had that in front of you. They witness it every single day. It's such a beautiful thing because now they have the ability to go and live that through their own lives and the people they touch and interact with. And so again, that legacy is just so huge. And congratulations on that, Ken, because it's a truly a big deal.
Thank you. It sure is. And I tell you, I have to pinch myself every day when I look in the mirror and I see myself, and then I see my 3 boys and how well they're doing. It's just incredible how fortunate I've been in my life.
Yes. Certainly a blessed life, Ken. Certainly a blessed life. The career in law, I got to ask about that because that's an interesting direction to go in.
Well, what happened was, while I was in law school, I did an internship at the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. And I loved it. And in fact, I found a new way that I could help people and serve the community as a whole. So when I graduated law school, I applied for a full-time position with them. And I was very fortunate that the district attorney at the time, a person by the name of Dennis Dillon, placed his hiring decision on my abilities rather than my disability. And he hired me to work as a Nassau County Assistant District Attorney. And I was so fortunate to get that position. So I worked there for more than 40 years. In fact, I was promoted a number of times, where I eventually became one of the deputy bureau chiefs of our county court trial bureau, where I was helped supervise more than 25 other assistant district attorneys.
Wow. You're not supposed to do that, Ken. What are you talking about, man? You're not supposed to do that.
So I've been really fortunate in my professional career as well as in my personal life.
What was that experience like, Ken? Because now you keep breaking down these barriers and kicking down doors that you're not
You
supposed
know,
to.
I like the way you worded it, breaking down barriers and kicking down doors. I was able to graduate law school in the standard 3-year time period. I began my work in the district attorney's office by participating in a very intensive 4-week training program where they taught us all aspects of trial techniques from a prosecutor's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so proud to go to court my first day,
Mm-hmm.
only to find I couldn't fit through the swinging doorways in the courtroom. They were too narrow to allow me to get through in my electric wheelchair.
Mm.
So that was one of the first challenges I faced in my new career. They didn't prepare me for in law school, but I was very fortunate. They eventually widened the doorways and I was able to get by. And, I had the opportunity to actually try cases.
Yes.
And I was successful at doing that. And I was fortunate that I was with supervisors that recognized me for my ability.
Beautiful.
And didn't solely look at my disability. They saw I had the ability to help others. And they promoted me a number of times. And I was so fortunate to have that opportunity. And I might add that I was told a number of times that when people were leaving the office, they told the person in personnel that one of the best parts of their job was meeting, getting to work with, and getting to know me.
Oh,
and I'm not saying that to boast or brag. I know they weren't
No.
saying that about Ken Kunken. They were saying about meeting, getting to know, and working with a person with a significant disability. Because unless you have a close relative with a disability, many people never get to spend a lot of time with somebody
Right.
with a disability, right?
Yeah.
And by doing that, they've seen we're no different than anybody else. We have the same needs, wants, and
Yes.
desires as
Yes.
every able-bodied person.
Yes.
And I think one of the things they were pleased with, and it was a revelation to them, that not only was I a hard worker, but working with me did not involve any additional work for them. And I know they certainly appreciated that.
Yes.
And the fact that people with disabilities can work and work well is a message I want to convey to all your listeners. It's so important to recognize that. And when you have the opportunity to hire somebody with a disability, take advantage of that. It just makes good business sense to do so.
It does, and it creates a diverse work environment, perspectives that you may not have seen before, because you now have this different viewpoint. And so you're absolutely correct. It makes so much sense. It's funny, Ken, when I think about these conversations, podcast interviews, I always, at the end of them, I kind of reflect and think back as to what stands out for me. And there's so much about your story that resonates. But one of the ones that's continues to come to mind is seeing people for what they are and what they don't have. Right, being able to recognize, and I do think that's actually a skill too, that you have to see beyond what's in front of you and what does this person bring to the table that is not visible, perhaps. And
Right.
So to know that that you've gotten credit for what you can do and your abilities versus your disability, I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing, and really speaks to the impact we can have on others and the impact that we can allow others to have when we see them for who they are.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Ken, this has just been delightful. I'm so honored and blessed that we had this time to chat today, and feel I guarantee I'll walk away feeling so inspired and listening to think when I reflect on your story and all the beautiful parts of it. It's funny, we have our stories, and our stories can be whatever we want them to be, right? If you wanted to, you could talk about all the bad things that didn't work your way, all the doors that were too small, all the stairs that you couldn't overcome, but that's not your story. Your story is far much greater than that. I want to really commend you on being able to share that. Thank you. Like I said, I'm really inspired.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story with you and your listeners.
For sure. Sorry, you got a book too, right, Ken? You got a book?
Yes, I do.
Tell us. Yes.
Well, it's actually on the shelf right behind me.
Yeah, I see it there.
I Dream of Things That Never Were, the Ken Kunken story.
Yeah.
And you can learn more about me and about how to purchase the book if you go to my website, which is kenkunken.com, and that'll tell you how you could purchase the book. I might add that we're also in the process of finishing an audiobook that should be available very shortly. And my book's also available on Kindle, on ebooks. And if I just might tell you how I derived the title of my book.
Yeah, please. I was going to ask about it.
Okay. While I was still a patient in the rehab center, I was invited to testify before a United States Senate Health Subcommittee chaired by Senator Edward Kennedy. And 8 days after my testimony, Senator Kennedy sent me a glass paperweight in the mail that had an inscription on it that the senator said his late brother Robert Kennedy liked very much. And the words on that inscription have always been very meaningful to me. The words said, "Some men see things as they are and say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not." And that's where I got the title of my book, I Dream of Things That Never Were.
Yeah.
The Ken Kunken story.
And I love the why not at the end, because it forces you to challenge, who cares what hasn't happened? Who cares what hasn't been done? Why not? Because those two words together, they create possibilities. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Thank you. And I agree with you.
A million percent. Ken, this has been awesome. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on a life well lived and so much more to do. You have so much to be proud of, so much accomplishments, but at the same time, inspiring so many people. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for having me as your guest.
Back we are here on the podcast. Throughout our conversation, Ken shared his powerful experiences, emphasizing that the limitations placed on individuals with disabilities are often societal rather than physical. He highlights the importance of having a robust support system, which has been crucial to his overall success. What really struck me most is during our conversation with Ken, it was his unwavering belief that just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean that it can't be achieved now. And I really think that underscores what audacious living is all about. This serves as a reminder that we can challenge the status quo in our own lives. I encourage you to connect with Ken directly and learn more about his journey. You can find his contact details in the show notes below, along with information about his book, I Dream of Things That Never Were, which is a profound reflection on his life experiences. Additionally, Ken is excited to offer listeners an exclusive discount of his upcoming audio book, in the audiobook version of his book. And really, it's his inspiring story. It's a fantastic opportunity for anyone looking to be more motivated. I want to thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found today's episode as inspiring as I did. If you've enjoyed the conversation, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and family if you haven't already done so. Your support helps us to continue to grow and spread the message of living audaciously. Until next time, keep striving for greatness, and remember that you have the power to create the life you envision. Please take care, and until next time, be safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.